Bitcoin is on the verge of breaking out. Will it be to the upside or to the downside? Welcome to Empire Trading Academy, guys. Hit the like, hit the subscribe if you have not already. And let's get right into this. First, we're looking at the technicals of Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at a little bit of equities, and we're going to look at Ethereum as well to look at a pattern that we are seeing on both Bitcoin and Ethereum. We're also going to be looking at on-chain data and a sentiment score from Google to see kind of where we are in this market. And stay tuned until the end. Please watch until the whole thing. You're not going to want to miss it. We're looking at on-chain data at the very end that is giving a crucial indication of possibly where we are in this market. All right, guys, first and foremost, we're looking at Bitcoin. Now, we're looking at the daily chart right here, okay? Now, as you've seen, if you followed us for any time, you know that we're looking at this. Everybody has been watching this. We're trading in this range between $46,000 and $33,000 range here. Okay, putting in higher lows, right? Pretty much flat across the top, putting in higher lows. Now, typically in the continuation of a downtrend, this is going to be typically a bearish pattern. Okay, so whether or not we have a flat across, okay, and so we have this pennant, right, where typically, again, a continuation from a downtrend, we're going to break to the downside, okay, even if it's a bear flag, okay, like this bear flag is a continuation pattern in a downtrend, typically breaking to the downside, okay. Now, could be that, but also, again, we're looking at this pennant as well. With this that we have just put in here, we're looking at this bear flag, we would call it, again, because we're in a general downtrend, okay? And what we're seeing is another retest of this resistance, okay? We've wicked above here, okay, at our big $46,000 supply level, okay, and again we wicked above here, now closing the daily below, wicking above briefly today, but now back beneath. All right, and so we're watching this pattern very, very closely to see which way we're going to break out of this. Now, if you look at the RSI at the bottom, we're putting in virtually that same, although the dynamics of the strength of the RSI coincide with this, we're still looking at this flag, right? Where we're basically pretty much a little bit of negative divergence up at the top, or at least descending on the RSI, but definitely increasing on the RSI there, all right? And so both in price action and on our RSI, we're coming to a point where we're gonna have to break either to the upside or to the downside at some point, all right? And in my opinion, yes, we can go ahead and take trades, short trades at resistance here. We can put a stop loss above our wick, above resistance here. But the lower risk, higher probability trade would most likely be playing a confirmed breakout either to the upside here or to the downside here. All right. And in my opinion, if we were going to get a break of these levels here, these ascending and descending support trend lines, right, we're going to get some sort of test of these major range levels, either to the bottom if we break out to the bottom of the downside here, or to the top of 46,000 if we break out to the upside here. Okay, so that's what we're looking at right here. Okay, that's on Bitcoin. Now, if we look, right, we actually just went short here, short-term short, okay? We went short here, and I'll tell you why, okay? One, we're looking at Bitcoin, we're at resistance, okay? But as you know, we've been following equities pretty closely, and if we look at equities, right, we'll drop down all the way to the 5-minute just so you can see clearly. We're having this big buildup, okay? We have this big relief rally from a greater downtrend. Okay, we have a downtrend and we're throwing in a relief rally, big positive divergence on this, which gave an indication that we were that a relief rally was coming. Okay, and so now we're in that. Now we're looking at the 5-minute. We had this ascending trend line that we tested multiple times, ascending support level. Okay, and so when we came to test this once again, we got to break out to the downside, possibly leading to even further downside of these major levels. possibly down to 345, okay, or lower, okay? Now, we got the break showing weakness on equities. Bitcoin has been following relatively closely, and so we like that that confluence and that agreement between both Bitcoin and equities. Okay, at resistance, right? At resistance on Bitcoin. Now, the reason why I like this setup a little bit more, or looking at the pattern in this way, is because if we look at Ethereum as well, Ethereum is much more closer to these descending, these lower highs, right? Just like we just showed on Bitcoin, as opposed to this, like a bear flag. Okay. Now it's still possible that is the way that price action in the market is trading. It's still possible, but I find the higher probability to be this type of structure based on the fact that Ethereum, another major player, is following that more closely. Okay, and so that's why we like that there, and that's how we're going to be trading based off of the supply and demand zones, resistance and support. All right, so that's what we're looking at there. One more thing on Bitcoin. If we zoom out to the weekly, you know what we've been watching here. So you know that this is the one that we have been watching extremely closely, right? Just to review: resistance, resistance, support, resistance, and resistance all along here every single week, showing that selling pressure coming down. Now, last week, right, that ended just a couple days ago, we just put in a close above this level. Now we need to basically put in a caveat that we just barely put that in. Okay, we barely put that in. And if you notice, even the size of the wick, these past few weeks, we have not been putting in that same amount of buying that we did in the previous weeks. Okay, and this also basically leads us to have a bias of this structure here, this bear pennant, because of these lower wicks on the weekly as well. Okay, so again, we're watching this extremely closely this week to see whether or not we are going to close above this descending, right? And obviously this descending trend line. Okay, this is our major one, our macro descending one that we have been flipping both resistance and support. So we're going to watch that extremely, extremely closely. All right. Now, guys. All right. First, really quickly, whales. What are whales doing? These guys are not doing really much of anything. Okay. We had that big sell off and there's really been no big accumulating or big selling. Okay. Price action has been rising, right, for the past, call it week and a half. But no real accumulation from whales. All right. Second, short-term holders, right? Short-term holders, really no accumulation, kind of choppy, general uptrend, right? We can call it since October, but no real big moves yet, right? If we go out 2 years, we know that since that top, our all-time high, right, in November, we have basically just been these guys have slightly been taking over some of the supply. But what I'm about to show you here will show you extremely well what the sentiment is like overall. And that is, if we look on Google Trends and we can look at the amount of searches or the interest that Bitcoin, both Bitcoin and crypto have from people that are searching on Google. Okay, blue is Bitcoin. So if we look at Bitcoin here, we're all the way down, right? We're all the way down to the same level that we were at last 2020 in November. Okay, and so that heavy interest, obviously we're not in a bull market, that heavy interest is gone. Okay, now if you're looking at long-term to accumulate for long-term, when everybody is bored out of their minds of what Bitcoin is doing, that is the time to accumulate. It doesn't mean that price action cannot continue to go down some, right? But it's definitely the time to be accumulating for long term. It's a really, really good opportunity to get it at a discount. And when people are bored, that is when there's really very few market participants. Okay. And so that also will go back to short-term holders. That also shows how much more downside can we possibly have. Okay. And quickly, if we look at crypto, also crypto, same thing. These came to a little bit lower levels. People are always searching for Bitcoin primarily more than the term crypto in general. But again, extremely, extremely low. All right. So now back to what I was just saying, that how much lower can we go? If we look at the short-term holder supply, we've looked at this before. These guys are the ones that push these rallies, okay? And also push the selling, right? Whales will initiate, okay, but they really carry this out. And so if we are all the way down to these bear market levels in terms of short-term holder supply, right? If we're already down there at these levels, there's only so much more panic selling that can happen, right? And that's really what drives these big moves in Bitcoin and in crypto, is these big panic selling, continued panic selling and disinterest, right? And so what we have here is slight accumulation here, but we're already way down. We're already way down. Okay. And so in the top here, we hit the top here in 2018, right? And this metric short-term holders were holding most of the supply, right? Because they get caught holding the bags, and then they panic sell once we start to make our way down. They panic sell, and then that puts us into a bear market. Bear market bottom, low on supply holders, right? Or short-term supply holders. Short-term holders, right? Total supply of it. Okay. But what happened when we hit all-time high this time? We were already down here. Okay. We were already down here. And so there can only be so much panic selling, okay, that can take us deep, deep, deep into a bear market, where that sentiment is there. Disinterest in searching, right? And so we're definitely in a bear market, right? But it's just a determination of how low we can go. Now, we can definitely see further downside. Okay, we can definitely see further downside, but there will be no more extreme panic selling from these highs. Okay, just like we saw here. If we look at this short-term holder profit and loss ratio, guys, it's basically a SOPR metric for short-term holders. Okay, and again, if you're unfamiliar with this metric, this one baseline, we'll call it, okay, puts it into a ratio. This one metric that's going across, this is going to be our baseline. If we're typically in a bull market, if we're trading above this one, and bear market if we're trading below. And if we're below, we tend to use this for resistance. If we're above, we tend to use this as support. And so you can see on these tests in price action, we've tested this line a few different times, testing it once again. All right, so again, a crucial area, whether or not we get a bounce, and that's what we'll be looking for, is a bounce off of this and continue downtrend to see if we can go ahead and retest those $33,000 lows. All right, so we'll be watching this, and vice versa. If we flip this, then we're going to go ahead and find strength for sure. All right, Hodler net position change, guys. These guys are still accumulating, but again, really in the grand scheme of things, they are. I want to see when they're not accumulating. When they are accumulating, it doesn't really mean much. But when they are getting rid of coins, for bulls, that's not a good sign. Okay, but when they are accumulating, they're not really looking for. They're just looking for deep discounts. It doesn't mean that we can't go lower, right? Okay, so take this with a grain of salt. Okay, last thing, guys, super crucial. MVRVZ score. Okay, it's taking the basically it's taking the fair value. Okay, whether or not Bitcoin is overvalued or relatively undervalued, and it's putting it into a ratio. Okay, and so what that ratio does is basically gives you ideas of bull market tops or bear market bottoms. And this red area is going to be our bull market tops. This green area, if you can see that, it's really, really dark green. This area down here, just below zero, is going to be our bear market bottoms, or at least very local bottoms. Okay, we went into the green here, absolute bottom of the bear market 2019. Local bottom here, we touched it again down here in the metric. Okay, so now, normally when we go into bear markets, we can even back it up. When we go into bear markets, guys, here, bottom of the bear market, here, bottom of the bear market. When we go into bear markets, we have always historically gone down and traced into this green level at zero or above. Okay, and we have yet to do that in this market. Now, there are other metrics that show that we never retraced into bull market top indicators. However, on this one, we did touch into this metric 7 or above. We did hit that on our way to 64,000 the first time. Okay, and then very little in this metric, very little buying from retail traders on our way up second time to 64 and then to 68,000. Okay, and so if we can look at this historically, we still need to retrace into this green area down to zero or below in order to put in a bear market bottom. Okay, so now just because, but again, we want to match this with other things, especially price action, okay, to determine whether or not we have put in a bottom or if we still need to go below. Now, if we do come into this green area, again, historically, and especially because we did not get any sort of big blow off top, right? If we do come into this green area, we will absolutely be buying with truckloads. Okay, this is an excellent opportunity to buy, beyond excellent. Okay, completely asymmetric trade to go long. All right, so we are also watching this metric extremely closely. Guys, please, if you guys have not checked out the website already, check out all the premier trading tools that we have in order to increase your knowledge and continue your trading journey for you to get better and better and better. And if you have any sort of questions at all, guys, please reach out to us, email us, message us, and we'll see you in the next video.